This conference will now be recorded.
Asmadacharya Paryandam Vande Guru Paramparam. Ragadirogan Sadatanushaktan Asheshakaya Prasrudan Asheshan Aulsukyamoha Aradidan Jakhana Yopurva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. So we were discussing about the Rasa Shesha Jirnam the other day. Ashraddha, Hridvyatha, Shuddhepyudgare, Rasasheshataha. Shaida. That is the line which we completed. Shuddhepyudgare, Rasasheshataha. Then we came across the Jirnahara Lakshanam as explained by Ashtanga Sangraha, or as explained in Ashtanga Sangraha. That is Udgara Shuddhir Ulsaho Vegotsargo Yadhojitaha Lekhuda Shrutpipasa cha Jirnaharasya Lakshanam. Then we explained many things which are relevant in that context. So each one of these lakshanas are important. That means Udgara Suddhi, Utsaha, Vegotsargaha, Lekhuda, Shutpipasa cha Jirnaharasya Lakshana. So all these lakshanas are important. A partial fulfillment is not sufficient. So what we find here is Ashraddha, Hridvyatha, Shuddhepyudgare. There is Udgara Shuddhi, but Ashraddha. So that desire, Abhilasha, to eat is not there. And generally there should be a sort of utsaha, lekhuta. Instead, here there is hridvyatha. Hridvyatha is actually not just about the pain of the heart. It is not like that, but it is about the mental condition more, some sort of an inertia, lack of utsaha, more clearly. So even if there is Udgara Shuddhi, Ashraddha and Hridvyatha persist, that means that Chut Pipasa is not there and Utsaha is not there, then we conclude that there is Rasa Shesha Jirna. At this point, we should understand that the text is written. The text is written with a particular practice of eating, and that practice is all about 2 meals a day. That is about 2 meals a day. Sayam pradar manushyanam bhojanam. So you can think about it because it is important. 1 meal in the morning, preferably after the Kabha Kala is over, and 1 meal in the evening before the beginning of Kabha Kala. 2 meals which was so natural or spontaneous as far as the living environment, other similar natural conditions, all these things are concerned or considered, because all these things revolve around the willingness and the readiness of our body to accept the nutrition. And it is closely connected to the sun, closely connected to the movement of the day and night. So through the day, it is supposed, when there is sun or when the time is predominated by sun, that is the best time where the body can accept the sort of annam, nourishment. Night, there is no sun, there is no natural light, there is no energy, and the body denies. All the bodily procedural schedules, they start running slow, in a slow pace or a slower pace. So that is the basis of these 2 meals. So it was so natural and spontaneous, but we changed it later. So when we read this Rasashesha Jirnam or whatever it is, we should have that sort of a sense to make necessary improvisations so as to make it suitable for our present day life. Later, say when the life changed, the government machinery started working with more discipline, institutionalization of labor, many things came, maybe in the colonial and post-colonial periods. We changed the pattern to 3 meal schedule: morning breakfast, then lunch, and in the evening dinner. Then the snacks came in between: morning, then break, lunch, then break, then dinner. So it practically became 5. Things kept on changing, and I think with the onset of the lockdown, there is no any particular pattern followed. Whenever you feel like, you eat. Whenever you get something, you eat. Sometimes 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. So with that experience with us in mind, don't try to interpret what this Rasashesha Jirnam is and what the consequences are. Because I think we may be living, eating in such a manner that we don't even understand at least once in a day that the aharam is jirna. So that is the situation where we are, even the Ayurvedic people, despite the knowledge of all these affairs, eat and drink. Anyway, we will go through the textual references and try to understand it as the idealistic statements. Then necessary improvisations may be done accordingly. So in such a situation of Rasashesha Ajirnam, what should be done? So in the morning, we are having a meal after the Kabhakala, maybe getting up early, as we know, sometimes even in the Brahma Muhurta. So the getting up, the process of getting up is not just for eating. There are many other things which are done through the Kabhakala, and then only we eat, ideally. So we find in Dinacharya that Sharira Chindam Nirvartya, one important assessment of one's own body, that is the Sharira Chinta, is regarding this particular element, whether the previous meal is digested or not, whether the previous meal is digested properly or not. Then only we will be understanding the sort of Udgara Shuddhirulsaho, Vegotsargo, Yadhojitaha, all these things. Still, there may not be Chut Pipasa. Then we will wait. We will wait for that Chut Pipasa to come. When we go for the chapter of Dinacharya, we may see certain important idea regarding this. At one point, I think it is especially in Ashtanga Sangraham, if I am right, where to go for even the snanam, Abhyanga snanam. There are many things explained. And then at one point, Adha Jada Annapanecha. Adha Jada Annapanecho Marudaknaihi Sugandhibhihi Yadhartu Samsparsha Sukhaihi Tailairabhyangamajare. So before that, there are many things completed. So through the Kabhakala, we are moving forward with the many other activities of the Dinacharya. Adha Jalannapanechaha. So at the time of waking up, getting up from the bed, you have a Sharira Chinda regarding what has happened to the previous meal. Then you have that Ashraddha Hridvyatha. So that Ashraddha is manifested not just as Anannabhilashanam, but it is lack of drive itself. Generally, Ashraddha is explained or described as Annanabhilasham. But taking the entire picture into consideration, that Ashraddha means the lack of drive to get up from the bed and to start the day fresh. That is not there. That is what Ashraddha is. Because you are not expected to have the sort of that Chut and Pipasa right after getting from the bed. It is not expected. It may take some more time. So if that drive is not there, but that drive, again, coming to the practical side, should not be in the case of a sleep deprived person. We should be realistic. We should understand what is going on in our society. See, the previous meal, what is explained here, is taken before the Kabhakala of the Ratri. That means before the sunset. Sun sets and the night begins, and the first third is for the kapha. So before that, that means practically before the sunset, the meal is taken. And the textbook is written in a time where neither electricity or nor electric bulb is discovered, or not, it is there, not in the society. So you cannot expect to spend the whole night beneath the artificial source of light. So going to bed will not be that late as we practice it today. So there is a sufficient time. Of course, I presume that the two meals will be very bulky, very good in the quantity, no doubt, for many reasons, which I am not going to explain. An ideal meal will not be that light. So even the Guru Lakhu consideration should be different from our time to their time. And in such a case, getting up in the morning, maybe in the Brahma Muhurta or whatever it is, in the Sharira Chinda, we look back or look in, not back, look in and assess what is happening. Sharira Chinda. Ashtanga Sangraham is more specific on these points. In Ashtanga Hridayam, we find Brahme Muhurta Uttishted Swasto Raksharthamayushaha. Sharira Chindam Nurvartya. But in Ashtanga Sangraham, Brahme Muhurta Uttishted Jirna Jirnam Nirubayan. Jirna Jirnam Nirubayan Raksharthamayushaha Swasthaha. So we can connect this Nirupanam of Jirna Jirnada to the Raksharthamayushaha statement. So that Jirna Jirnada assessment, self-assessment of the Jirna Jirnada of the previous evening meal is so crucial in the Ayu Palanam, Ayu Raksha, very, very important. So all these things are to be brought here while we are trying to understand this Rasa Shesha Jirna. So in the morning, so if you are having your dinner maybe 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night, and then after all the chats and gossips online and offline, you go to bed at 12:30, and because of the routine pressure, you switch on an alarm for 5 a.m. and the alarm rings and you try to get up. Of course, you may not be getting up. You try to get up, and obviously you will have ashraddha. You will have ashraddha, because it is the presentation or the lakshana of a totally disrupted body system or a totally disrupted dinacharya, which need not be brought into this scenario. There will be rasa sheshajirna, there will be lack of rest, there will be sleep deprival, and you are not expected to have the sort of shraddha. So that is not what we are mentioning in this context. After a good sleep of sufficient length, getting up without an alarm, and then you are not feeling the sort of shraddha which you are expected to feel, then that is known as ashraddha, and still you feel that the udgaram is shuddham, then presume that it is rasa shesha. Then what should be done? Shaida kinchideva atra. Shaida kinchid eva. You may continue to lie down on your bed for some more time. Kinjid. Not a long stogamatrameva swapyad. Arunadatta. Sleep for some more time. A short while. Stoga matrameva. That time, that stoga matram, is the time which is so subjective and situation specific, which will be sufficient to make sure that the rasa sheshata is cleared. Then you will feel the sort of shraddha and hridlaghavam, utsaham, which you are expected to have. Shaita kinjideva atra. Meantime, next in the sloka, what we find is a sort of generalization. Sarvaschanashido diva swapyad ajirni. Here it is a more generalized statement. Ajirni. Ajirni in general. Ajirni in general. Anashitaha sarvaha diva swapyad. So if the type of ajirna which we were explaining earlier of multiple types of multiple dosha component, the general advice is that don't give a chance for the issue to accumulate further, make matters worse, and give the body a focused chance to deal with the crisis. So what should you do? Sleep for the whole day. At least you resolve to sleep for the whole day. It is not for kinjid stoga matram. Sarva diva. For the whole day, resolve to sleep. Swapyad. Ajirni. So it is about divaswapna. It is about divaswapna. We have seen it, isn't it? In the previous chapter, I do not know whether we have covered it in our sessions, but there is a chapter called that Anyareksha, which was there in the actually it is the seventh chapter in Ashtanga Hridayam, where we will find where you can have that Divaswapnam and all these things. There we find this Ajirni, isn't it? Grishme Vayuchayadana Raukshya Ratrialpabhavataha Divaswapno Hitaha Anyasmin Kabhapitta Hisaha Muktva, except. So there is a list of exempted people or situations where Divaswapnam is the rule, not even allowed, but even the rule. They are Muktvadu Bhashyayana Madhyastri Bharya Karmabhihi Krodhashoga Bhayahi Klandan Swasahidhuma Adisarinaha Vruddha Balabala Kshina Kshada Tritsula Pididan Ajirni Abhihadonmattan Divaswapnojidanapi. So that is the rule here. Sarvaschanasito divaswapyadajirni. Then Sanjada bubhukshodyad mitam lakhu. Sanjada bubhukshaha. Sanjada bubhukshaha. When he or she becomes a person with hunger, bubhuksha, hunger. Sanjada bubhukshaha, a person who has developed hunger. Then up to that, Sopyad, get up when you are hungry. Then Adhyad mitam lakhu. Adhyad mitam. Mitam means according to the matra. Mitam does not mean less. Mitam means as per the matra. Mitam lakhu. Easy to digest. We know lakhu. Mitam lakhu. So in these three lines, we find two things. One is a milder version of Rasashesha, but as we discussed the other day, which can become the cause for many lifestyle related diseases and at times to degenerative and autoimmune diseases. But when given proper care, when attended promptly, can be managed easily. And the second one is a generalized statement for all situations, including Vishuchika, Alasagam, everything. If possible, Sopyada Jirni. That Adimatrajanya Vikara. Sopyada Jirni. Sanjada Bubhuksho Adhyad Mitam Lekhu. Sanjada Bubhukshodhyad Mitam Lekhu. So that is the important message that these three lines are conveying. Now, next what we find is Vibandhodi pravrittirva glanirmayuda mudhata ajirna lingam samanyam vishtambho gauravam brahmaha. So when we say that okay, Sopyad ajirni, so that as I mentioned, it is a highly generalized term. It's a highly generalized term or usage. So obviously there is a question. Can you give me a quick idea to understand the features of ajirnam so that I can take care? So as an answer to such a query, we find these two lines. Vibandhodi pravrittirva glanir marudamudhata ajirnalingam samanyam vishtambho gauravam brahmaha. These presentations, lakshanas, can be considered as samanyam ajirnalingam. Samanyam ajirnalingam. Which are they? Vibandhaha. Vibandhaha. Vibandham, we find very straightforward explanations in the commentary part. Mutra purishayoho apravritti lakshanaha. Personally, I would feel or I would like to comment more specifically on the purisha part than the mutra part. Purisha part. And maybe at sometimes the vayu part also. Than including mutra into it. So there can be vibandha, va or adipravritti. Adipravritti also, again, purisha leads. Purisha should be considered in the first part. So adipravritti. Then glani. Next is glani. Glani means that sort of feeling where the individual looks and feels very tired, more in the looks as well, looks very dull, very low, and the face tells the sort of glani. Then maruda mudhata. So that vibandha, when I say that it is including that Adho Vayu, but in general, there will be Mudhada of Vayu in the Koshta. Mudhada of Vayu. So you feel that there is Vayu trapped inside. Vayu blocked and trapped inside. Then Vishtambha. Vishtambha. Vishtambha means the sort of bloated feeling. Your tummy feels bloated with full of air. That sort of a feeling is known as the Vishtambha here. Hemadri comments it as Visheshena Stambha Gatranam. But I think that is some as we find in some areas of the commentary, Nadi Sundaram. I think a better explanation could be that given by the Arunadatta. That means Kutsher Atmanam. That seems to be or sounds to be more realistic. Gauravam, overall Gauravam, Guru Gatrata. And Brahmaha, Brahmam, some sort of a giddiness and dizziness. You feel like disoriented, and sometimes you take an extra precaution to say that while moving around to make sure that you are not missing in your connectivity with the surroundings. So that sort of a feeling is mentioned here as moha, sorry, brahma. So vibandho pravrittirva glanirmarudamudhada ajirnalingam samanyam vishtambho gauravam brahmaha. So this is very important. We will find one interesting quote in the Arunadatta commentary, the source of which is not specified. Sidatyangam Brahmo Moha. So Brahmam and Moham together we find there. Koshte Muhyadi Maruta Sarvesham Apyajirnanam Avisamvadi Lakshanam. So it is something like Avyabhijari Lakshanam. The cardinal features of Sarvesham Apyajirnanam. Interesting, really interesting, because that gives you a quick note of the situation very easily. So again, all features are important. All the features are important. Fine. Then, so long way from the beginning, we reached here, Ajirnalingam Samanyam. So generally there is a notion or a narrative that Adimatrashanam is the culprit of all these issues. That is how we started. Bhojanam hinamatram tu na balopajayajase sarvesham vadaroganam hedudam cha prapadyade. Adimatram punah sarvan ashudoshan pragopaye. That is how we started. Adimatram punah sarvan ashudoshan pragopaye. And then we explained many things connected to that. We went through the Vishuchika, Alasakam, Dandaka Alasakam, Visham, many things. Then we came straight to a milder or a subacute version of this Vadajirnam, Pittajirnam and Kabhajirnam with specific names. Then we came through a delayed manifestations of these Ajirna Vikaras like Vilambika. So all these situations were in general explained in the huge backdrop of Adimatrasana. And at one point we even saw the quote from Ashtanga Sangraham. That means all these things are basically issues related with that Ashanalubdhanam, isn't it? That is how we saw it there. These are all related with the Ashanalubdhanam. So anybody who is having no control over his or her meal, isn't it? Nrinam Ashanalubdhanam Visheshena Vishujiga. That is how we saw it in Ashtanga Sangraha. But at this point, the author prefers to present the fact that it need not be Adimatrashanam. It need not be Adimatrashanam always the reason behind Ajirna and Ajirnajanya Vikaras subsequently. So that point he would like to present at this juncture. And that is what we find in our next line. Na cha adimatramevannam amadosaya kevalam. Na cha adimatramevannam amadosaya kevalam. Adimatram annam. That is the prime focus what we were having till this. Kevalam adimatram annam eva. Amadoshaya na. Then what else? So that is an interesting point, because that is something like essential areas which a clinician should know about. So he is continuing. See, Dvishta Vishtambhi Dagdha Ama Guru Ruksha Himashuji Vidahi Shushkam Atyambu Pludam Channam Najiryadi. Dvishta Vishtambhi Dagdhama Guru Ruksha Himashuji Vidahi Shushkamatyambu Pludam Channam Najiryati. So there are other possibilities. Dvishtam. So if the aharam is dvishtam, dvishtam means apriyam. Something which we does not like. That is dvishta. Something which we hate. Then Vishtambhi. Vishtambhi. We just saw Vishtambham in the previous line. And we saw that it is Adhmanakari. It is Adhmanakari. So here Vishtambhi means Kukshyadhmanakari. Something which creates the sort of Adhmanam, the bloated nature. Kukshyadhmanam. There are many stuffs like that, no? This sometimes dravyashritam, sometimes vyaktyashritam. There are people who cannot digest this tubers, anything which grows beneath the soil, tubers, potatoes, or carrots, whatever it is. So that is one nature. Then they are generally known as Vishtambhi. Then this many of these pulses, certain people cannot digest, they are Vishtambhi again. And in certain stuffs we find that specifically mentioned as Vishtambhis. Then Dagdham. Dagdham means Adidagdham. Dagdham means Adidagdham. So certain, if the food or the stuff is Adidagdham, you cannot digest it. Dagdham. Amam. Amam means apakvam. If it is not properly cooked, then also it can cause ajirna. It need not be adimatra. Guru. We have seen that gurunam artha sauhityam. So that need all that need not be the standard. Generally, all guru stuffs tends to cause ajirna. Rukshannam can cause ajirnam. Himam, at one point we find the food which is to be avoided. Dandagrahya adishaityataha. Adishaityataha dandagrahi. That should be avoided. Ashuchi. Ashuchi annam should be avoided. So in anything which is ashuchi means something malinam, something which is not. We are all talking about the food safety these days, no? About more about food safety than food scarcity. So which all areas are to be covered in this terminology or this particular term called ashuchi is quite puzzling, because in the textbooks, in the commentaries, we find very simple things like uchishtam or keshadi dushitam, etc. But now there are many other options: chemically preserved, artificially flavored, then having pesticide residue in it, having artificial taste makers. So many things are to be taken care of while we are discussing or talking about this Ashuji Annam these days. And this Ashuji Annam can be one reason for all Ajirnajanya Vikaras. So we should be very, very careful. We should get out of the pages of the textbook. We may be reciting all these shlokas by heart at any point of time. Say, even if you are taken up off your bed in the midnight and asked to recite the Matrashitaya, you may be reciting the entire shlokas by heart. But that is not sufficient. We have to look around. We have to see the fact, what is happening in the society, the way in which we are eating, the way in which we are sourcing our food materials, the way in which they are cultivated, the way in which they are preserved or stored, and they are value added. It is known as value addition. That is an interesting factor. Most of these sort of manipulations are known as value addition. So how these foodstuffs are having this value addition, and ultimately how they are going to adversely influence the health, how they work as the disease generating machineries. So all these things are so crucial as a very responsible practitioner. Then vidahi, there are stuffs which will not digest completely, instead will cause the sort of amla pagam in between and continues in that state for longer periods than expected, causing symptoms of vidaha. That means that burning sensation in the stomach. So they are vidahi. Many things like dathi, etc. Then shushkam. Shushkam means asneham, prepared without sneham. Then atyambupludam, something which is soaked in water for long, or something which is consumed along with huge amount of water. All these come under atyambupludam. That also we have to consider, which all stuffs come under this list of or this heading of atyambupludam in our daily practice these days. Then such annam na jivyadi, they all tend to cause ajirna and tajanya vikaras. So we sit back and relax. Anyway, the list is over, comfortable, but the picture is not ending with this. One more line the author documents here, which says that even the emotional or psychological or mental status of the person who is eating can influence the digestive status. That is very, very important. The sort of mindfulness that we are supposed to have in our activities, I think the maximum should go at the time of eating. So next line we find upataptena bhuktam cha shoga krodha kshudadibhihi. Upataptena bhuktam cha shoga krodha kshudadibhihi. So shoga krodha kshudadibhihi upataptena bhuktam cha annam najiryati. That also goes to the chamber of ajirnannam. Shoga krodha kshudadibhihi. Adi. Arunadatta comments lobha bhayadi parigraha. Hemadri comments adi shabdad udvegadayaha. Hemadri seems to be more sensible that way. Both are equally good. So that udvegam, when you are anxious, when you are fearful, when you are desperate, when you are paranoid, all these emotional conditions, when you are stuck with kshuddha, hunger, when you are so hungry, I think when you eat, when you are so hungry, there is every possibility that it is not getting digested properly. So that exhaustive list of exemptions what we find here are so valuable in clinical practice. So I will be just reading aloud those 4 lines once again. Na chadi matramevanna mamadosaya kevalam dushta vishtambhi dagdhama guru ruksha himashuchi vidahi shushkam apyambu pludam channam na jityati. So in that ashuchi, we should include a huge list, and we should keep the board, the idea of safe food very high. Safe food, we should fight for it, we should work for it. At least in our personal lives, I think we should do something for that. Safe food. Then upataptena bhuktam cha shoga krodha kshudadibhihi. Then with that, we conclude one part of the chapter. Now we will see 3 specific conditions explained. 3 specific conditions explained. In Ashtanga Sangraham, in the prior to the Matrashitayam chapter, there is a chapter called Annapana Vidhi. There is a chapter called Annapana Vidhi. So there we find many things. Of course, most of them are adopted from Charaka Samhita, like the Ahara Vidhi Visheshayatanani. So they are all important. Actually, our discussion will be complete only if go through those areas as a homework. When we come and discuss this Matrashitayam in Ashtanga Hridayam, with all those points in our background, in our minds, things will be coming to a better illumination. That is very important. In Ashtanga Sangraham, Vidhi Vihidam Annapanam Ishtendriyarthamayatanam bruvate. So that may be one of the best explanations for what is a good food. Vidhi Vihidam Annapanam Ishtendriyarthamayatanam bruvate. Yadayattani hi ojastejo dhattvindriya bala tushti pushti pradibha arogyadini. Tadindhana cha andaragnehe sthitihi agnimulam cha dehadharanam iti. So we find a beautiful flow chart, a beautiful some sort of a interconnectedness about how a stuff, a panchabhaudika stuff which is outside the body, which is a foreign substance, which we call as food, due to certain criteria, due to certain qualities, is becoming the Agni Moolam cha Dehatharanam. So, two things. Number one, Tadindhana cha Andaragnehe Sthitihi. This food is the fuel for the Agni. And Agni is the root of Dehadharanam. And again, this Annam, it is from the Annam. Yadayatani hi ojas tejo dhatwindriya bala tushti pushti pradibha arogyadini. So I think these explanations are so beautiful, but the beauty should not be limited to the textbook. It should not be allowed to sit idle or in the sleeping bed in the pages. We should take it out and we should spread the message in the society, in the length and breadth. So such a beautiful explanations we find in this Annapana Vidhi. Then that Ahara Vidhi Visheshayatanani are explained in this Annapana Vidhi. Adha Atmavan Swabhava Samyoga Samskara Matra Desha Kala Upayoga Vyavastha Saptahara Kalpana Visheshanam Swasthya Swasthya Bhalanam Hedu Bhutaha Samikshya Hitameva Anuruddheda. So that is the message is so strong and so vivid. In a society like ours, where most of the people are living with some or the other type of chronic disease, hardly we find somebody who is not consuming 1 or 2 pills a day for some or the other lifestyle diseases. Despite the so-called advancement in the medical science, science is progressing, but common sense is missing. So I think the Ayurvedic Vaidyas, we are supposed to take these messages out of the books and spread it around. Ahara Vidhi Visheshayatanani. Importance of safe food, Shuchi Annam. So all these ideas, I think Annapana Vidhi Nashtanga Sangraham is a beautiful chapter which we have to revise again and again. I do not know whether we can read the entire chapter of Annapana Vidhi so elaborately, even though I would love to, and which is quite essential as well in our present context. Next, in the Ashtanga Hridayam, we have to read the 3 specific conditions of wrong dietary practices known as Samasanam, Adhyasanam, and Vishamasana. That we will try to cover in our next session. So with this, we conclude today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Once again, such a wonderful session to hear from you, sir.
Thank you, Nilesh.
So we have few comments and few questions, sir. I will read it
I
out.
think everybody can share their ideas, is it? Because these are all practical points. These are not very complex theoretical portions, but they're part and parcel of our daily life, daily practice. So everybody can share their ideas. Need not limit themselves by asking questions, isn't it? What is your saying?
Yes, sir. I think it's an open-end discussion. If anybody wants to add or share their views, please you can put on your mic and you can comment. Meanwhile, I will read the questions.
Yes.
Sir, what is the difference between Shuddh of Jirnahara and Annakala Shuddh?
Okay. The question is, what is the difference between Kshuddh of Jirnahara and Annakala Kshuddh? Actually, they are same, but as I explained earlier, see, you cannot expect why should we look forward the Jirnahara Lakshana? That is the question. So we are looking for the Jirnahara Lakshana as part of either self-assessment or assessment of somebody else. Say as a Vaidya, maybe of a patient, as a Vyakti, as a person, for self-assessment. So the question is whether it is the time for the next meal. Ahara kalam. That is the point of discussion. So when you are planning to have your meal, the Kshuddha should be there. We will be coming to that point at the end of this Matrashitayam. We will find two things. One is this Anna Kalam and Anna Vidhi. We will be coming to it. I think at that point the idea will be more clear. In any case, I will explain what is asked in the question. So Kshuddha Jirnahara and the Anna Kala Kshuddha, they are not different. Both are indicative of whether it is the right time to have the next meal. And in Kshuddha Jirnahara, it is something like a chronology is given. Udgara Shuddhi, Ulsaha, Vegotsargo, Lekhuta, Kshutpipasacha. So it starts from that Udgara Shuddhi, then up to that Kshutpipasa, you will be going through that chronological phase of that Sampurna Jirnaharata. Then obviously you will be reaching the next time of your ahara. That means the next annakala. So they are not different, but explained in two different contexts. That's all. This idea will be more clear or clearer when we go through a couple of slokas at the end of this chapter. That means that Prasrishte Vinmutre Hridi Suvimale, where we'll be explaining this Kala Sahi Mataha. And at that point, I think we will take some of the leading ideas from the Ashtanga Sangraham Annapana Vidhi as well. And I think the idea will be perfect. They are not different. That is the simplest answer that I can give at this point.
Yes, thank you, sir. The next question, I think you have answered it. Please tell a little more about idea of killer day. I think we have discussed it.
Yeah, we discussed it already.
Yeah. The next point is.
Question was raised. We came to it in detail.
Yeah. Sir, in Rashasheshavastha, how one can get Shuddha Udgara? I think this point also is explained in last session.
We discussed it in our last session. Yeah.
Yes.
In detail.
So I would request, please go through the last session. It is already uploaded on YouTube. The next point, sir, in Ajirna Avastha, what exactly happens when we sleep? How it helps in Pachana of doshas and Ahar, because Divaswap is Abhishandi, it will cause more Sanchay.
This point also we explained. See, this Divaswapnam in this particular context is becoming a remedial act. Because generally, as rightly mentioned in the question, Divaswapam is explained as except the Grishma Ritu, it is contraindicated because it is supposed to Kabhapitta Karohi Saha. That is how it is explained. So it is Abhishyandi or Utkledi, all these things can happen. But here we want the body or that Agni to be focused in the pachana of the rasashesha or the ajirna, in any case of ajirna, without getting involved or without getting in contact with any other foodstuffs. And also the entire body activities are also shut down. The only target or the only challenge in front of the Agni is to focus on the pachana, dosha pachana as well as the anna pachana. So the best option is to go for, continue for the sleep till that digestion part is over. And sanjata bhukshaha, once that task is over, when that challenge is met, then adhyad midam lekhu. So I think the sleep here, the divaswapnam here is about the extreme state of rest where Agni has nothing to do, nothing else to do. Interestingly, in the same context, we will find another reference. That means this Divaswabam at this point is just an indication or something like a representation of a total program. You see in page number 155 in the Hemadri commentary, you will find Hemadri quoting Yadaha Gharanadihi. So Ushnambupanadi Abhi Karyam Swapna Vidhischa Ayam Pradhanyad. So the pradhanyam, the importance is given to swapna vidhi. Meantime, ushnambupanadi abhi karyam yadaha gharanadi rasasheshe hida swapno gharmambu leghu bhojanam. So that gharmambu, so there are certain other measures which can be practiced or done, which will be complementing the Agni in its task. But to the extreme limit, or in the extreme sense, Vagbhada stick-ons to this point that no other option but to sleep and give the Agni full freedom, a full take on the Ajirna. So that is the message given by that Swapyad Ajirni Sanjata Bhukshodyan Midam Lekhu.
Yes, definitely, sir. And I would like to add a few more points.
Yes.
That in Trayopastamba, Ahar, Nidra and Brahmacharya are the three upastambas or three pillars. So Nidra has got its own importance in this Ahar Pachana, as you said. And also the Pachana, it takes place in two phases. First is Thula Pachana and the second one is the Sukshma Pachana, which takes place at the Dhatu level. So for this Sukshma Pachana, I think Nidra is the only option. No other things or no other things will help for this Sukshma Pachana. So that's why they have mentioned like this. And also, I remember one of our seniors, Vaidya Dhopeshwarkar sir, he once mentioned that the what we can say BSL or the blood sugar level, which is found in the diabetic patients, that is a result of this apurna nidra, or the patients who don't get proper nidra, that causes to increase the BSL values. Means in his what we can say case paper or n number of patients which he has examined, he has found this thing. And so he mentioned once that the BSL or the blood glucose level, raised blood glucose level, is a resultant of apurna nidra. It is not actually prameha, but it's raised glucose level. So these 2 points I just wanted to add, sir, to this.
That's great. That is informative also.
Can I share some personal experience about Nidra and Ajirna?
Sure.
Dr. Hema here.
Yes, please. Oh, she got disconnected from the group. Yes, she came back. Please continue. Dr. Hema, please continue. Dr. Hema?
Hello?
Yeah,
Hello?
we can hear you. Please continue.
Yeah. So whenever I have had ajirana or rasashesha ajirana, I have experienced that there is a typical kind of a mild shock all over the body. And when we go to sleep, there is shaman of a vyana vayu. All the swelling also goes down and there is a samyak vahan of the rasadhatu. So at that time, I have observed that even if we sleep for 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes, there is automatically your sleep goes off once the Gyanvayu Shaman happens, and there is a certain movement towards the posture. Means all the there is some movement from Shakha towards the posture that you can feel, and if we have diva swap, generally if there is ajirana, then I have noticed that there is always a very good complete motion that happens after having that diva swap. And you feel very fresh, energetic, and there is more agni that goes up. It is more like, it feels like as if you have winter season and how the Vyanvayu increases your agni, that similar effect happens when you go to sleep when you have ajirana. There is some role of Vyana Vayu, but the action feels like that.
That is interesting. That is really interesting experience sharing.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hema, for sharing your experience.
Certainly.
Prasad sir, one last question we will take and then we will conclude our session.
Yes, yes.
In Bhav Prakash, Vidagdha Jirna, Shitambupan is mentioned to pacify the Prakupit Pitta. How sir? Why
No,
is it?
it is simple. You see, if you remember what is explained in the Vidagdha Jirna Lakshana was Pittad Vidagdham Trinmoha Brahma Amlodgara Dahavat. That is the Vidagdha Jirna Lakshana. And so we find certain features like Trit, Moham, Brahmam, Amlodgaram, Daham, Koshtadaham, etc. And in the management line, we find Lankhanam Karyam Ametu, Vishtabdhe Swedanam Bhrisham, Vidagdhe Vamanam. So that is the first, the baseline. But the advice or the direction is not complete. It is completed as Yadva Yadhavastham Hidam Bhaved. So other than what I have explained in the text, author says, Yadva Yadhavastham Hidam Bhaved, that also may be done. So here maybe Bhava Prakasha gives one such example. When the individual is having vikaras like Koshtadaham, Trishna, Murcha, all these things as the prime features, I think before going for a Vamanam and other things, sometimes that Yadhavastham Hidam may be Sidambupanam. So it is an example of that what is explained in Ashtanga Hridaya, that Yadhavastham Hidam. That's all. Nothing to be taken from it other than that. Okay.
In this present lifestyle, sir, present in the present times, So we are, I think it looks like the lifestyle is targeting the Agni to defeat our own Agni. Such a lifestyle the whole society is now following.
We have taken it as a
And
mission.
it is our, at last we defeat and we try to find a solution for all the questions arises from defeating our own, the most powerful defense system of our system. And in the clinic also, every day we come across because of our ahara, vihara, and difference with the matra in different things, we are defeating our own system in multiple ways. And with this, I think with the present past two generations, which succeeded in defeating our own Agni, and the next generation offsprings are in that the Agni is inbuilt Agni itself is Dushta Agni. Like that, we are getting many cases. In itself, the Agni Dushti it is becoming a Prakriti for the next generation. That is the, I think, our and then generation next will have very difficult times. It seems like that. That's why more and more hospitals, more and more doctors. And I think if the real Vaidyas are coming out, less number of patients, less number of hospitals.
That is true. That is true. 100%.
And with one encounter, and if we have this understanding of real, the nature of our own system, which is explained in Ayurvedic texts in the form of the sutras, if we are able to understand and if we have the yukti of that, definitely we can make the other individual who is in front of us seeking the medicines or advice, we can impart the gurutva of these sutras in their common terms, and we can definitely make them devoid of diseases, maybe 80% of the diseases in their future lives, with one encounter.
True. No doubt.
Consultation. That is what my personal feeling for last 20 years. And more precisions we have, and more with precise advice we can give. Not just with the medicines, everything can be a medicine. That is what these sutras are always giving us, the many possibilities for making the arogya or the society's health much more better.
Yes, Ashwin. No doubt. You said it.
I think, sir, with this we can conclude our session
Yeah,
today.
we will. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, sir. And thank you everyone for such a wonderful session once again. We'll meet on next Thursday.
Yes. Shubharatri.
Shubharatri, sir. Shubharatri to all.
Thank you, sir.